Many people observe that when history is taught in high school, for example, that it's mostly a history of wars. Um, my students at the college level often remark that when they look back on the history courses they took, that's what stands out to them in their memory. It's that they learned about one war after another. And they came away with the impression that history and the unfolding of human behavior over time is either war or, like William James said, preparation for war. Um, but there's more to history than that. And if we wanted to change the way history curricula work in high school, um, without completely radicalizing the history, there are some obvious ways to do it. One is to talk about wars that have been prevented through diplomacy and achievements that promoted peace through negotiation rather than through warfare. And I'm thinking here of things like the Marshall Plan after World War II, which certainly benefited American interests, but also prevented the communist takeovers in places like Greece and other places, and may have prevented violent revolutions and even conflict between nations. Some United Nations peacekeeping efforts have been successful, either at stopping a war, preventing a war, and those deserve some study. Students deserve to know about that and just the idea that peacekeeping and negotiation can be successful at preventing wars. There's another kind of addition that could be made to the history curriculum, and that is the idea that, especially since Gandhi's time, there have been quite a few nonviolent wars or nonviolent revolutions. And those have begun to be studied in a way that I think needs to be passed on to students. I'm thinking here of Erica Chenoweth, who's a leading scholar on peaceful revolutions. And there's a very good secondary source called Nonviolent Revolutions by Sharon Nepstead. And that leans on this kind of research. Students need to know that there are factors that promote the success of nonviolent revolutions, and factors that can lead to failure in the attempt to have a nonviolent revolution or a nonviolent war. Many of these nonviolent conflicts have drawn inspiration from Gandhi or from Martin Luther King's work in the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement deserves more attention as an example of a long-term struggle for freedom. And it's astonishing that in the United States, which prizes itself as a nation devoted to freedom, that we don't study the freedom struggle as part of our history curriculum. It's interesting that nonviolent revolutions often succeed because they have gotten the government or the national police or the military to listen to the message of the revolution. And we've seen successful progress in the United States when the government started to cooperate with Martin Luther King. When in, let's say, Serbia, where the national police were told by the People's Radio Network to lay down your arms, don't fire on your citizens, your fellow citizens, and your neighbors and your relatives. Help us to get rid of the dictator, Milosevic. And it happened in Chile, where there was a political movement, a coalition of people who won an election against Augusto Pinochet and forced him to leave the office of president with and with the support of the military. Um, the the history of peaceful attempts to change the course of events is very rich and interesting. We don't have to only study wars in order to study complex, interesting human behavior and the effects that follow. We've got lots of other examples. So making the history curriculum richer in these ways by emphasizing the role of negotiation and diplomacy, which is often successful, and by looking at nonviolent wars, nonviolent revolutions. Those things would change the view of the world and the view of human behavior over time that students are getting in high school. I'll be back soon.